Afternoon, Dan.
Afternoon, Chris.
We're back for another week of the yarn. Dan, we're just going to touch on a few things today. We've got the election, obviously, a result finally. And then probably a month ago, there was a little bit of a saga between Eddie McGuire. And it's just recently been rehashed. So we're going to be commenting on that. And I know you're itching to get around that. Okay, so the election, Dan. So we've got the coalition finally getting a victory. It was a long time coming, and to be honest, they were in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, they've scraped in by Nance Thorax, haven't they? But already we've seen since Bill Shorten conceded defeat or / Malcolm Turnbull accepted victory last Sunday, we've already seen commentators or politicians, people in the media coming out and already trying to undermine.
Yeah, he's in a bit of trouble, isn't he?
Undermine Malcolm Turnbull already. He's been in for 1 week, and Bill Shorten was coming out and saying,
he wants another
election. Malcolm Turnbull hasn't got a mandate. Someone needs to get down to Canberra and just remind Bill that he lost, and that he's actually got 10 less seats in the House of Representatives. And if Malcolm doesn't have a mandate, you don't either, thanks, Bill. So maybe just get off your high horse and settle down a bit.
I just get a feeling, Dan, like it's just an uphill battle already. It's been 1 week. It's an uphill battle. I mean, we're going to be touching on a lot of what happened in the Q&A this week. I know you're a big viewer. I'm also a big viewer.
Regular
viewers. And from the feeling that I got from the Q&A was that it's almost like it's almost pre-election talk.
Yeah.
Where it's Turnbull's got to fight in his hands to get the support of the Australian people. He just won the election. Yeah. And already there's been talk about him not getting the support of his own party, the Australian people. There's rallying from the Labor Party. Like I don't know too much about in the actual political environment, but I just know that you'd hate to be the bloody Prime Minister, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And there's this talk about, how much, because he's only got a small, obviously, a majority nonetheless, but then there's all this talk about, and because of how much majority the coalition did have coming into the election, there's all this talk about it obviously being a bad result, and they'd lost so much ground, and they'd lost ministers and all this. But I don't buy into this theory that you can have, a big mandate or a small mandate. As far as I'm concerned, if you win the election, you won, and at least give them a chance. And to dispute that mandate, like Shorten did, was effectively like trying to dispute Newton's third law. There's no scales of mandates, Bill. There's just you either have one or you don't. And he's got one quite clearly.
The opposition party's got to do what an opposition party does, and that is reject anything.
And that's fine, but rather come out and dispute.
But they lost, so they've got to find a reason why they're going to lose, or they've got to try and keep their head above water by making these claims. So it's what they do in the Australian political system.
And that's fair enough. And, yeah, exactly. Like, as the opposition leader, you probably do expect Bill Shorten to be coming in and drumming all that stuff up. I can get past that. The thing that I can't get past is the people that have come in from Malcolm's own party in the coalition, the real right-wingers that we know he doesn't get along with, the real avid supporters that we know he doesn't probably get along with the best. And they've already come. I've turned them the hindsight heroes because they were nowhere to be seen while Malcolm Turnbull was the most popular Prime Minister this century.
Scrutiny, and all of a sudden,
the second the election went a bit sour, they've come out and they want to start bagging him about his election campaign and all this sort of stuff. I think Malcolm Turnbull now can turn to them and say, all these people in the right of his party, and say, look, I'm not the bloke that toppled Malcolm Turnbull anymore. I'm not the bloke that won a leadership ballot. I've won the fucking federal election. Let me go. Let the baby
baby's red. Yeah.
So I just want people to give him a chance, and if he's he's no good, democracy will take its course, and he'll get voted out.
Hopefully in 4 years' time, and not next week or whatever. Bill Shorten, he reckons. But anyway, I've seen stranger things happen. We'll move on to the
main event.
Main event, what we like to call it, because this is big, and I know you've been itching.
Since Monday.
You've been itching to get a hold of this, Dan. And for some of you who don't know, Eddie McGuire made some pretty ridiculous comments. We can both agree. about a journalist, a female journalist, Caroline Wilson, to the effect of, where were they there?
They were at the Queen's birthday day.
Yeah, that's
clash.
right. Yeah. So Queen's birthday day clash with the AFL game. He made a comment to the effect of dunking her head underwater and holding it there. All right, outlandish claim. He apologised. That was a month ago. That's what we thought the end was going to be. That was a month ago. Those comments have been rehashed, and they've been rehashed on Q&A, Dan, and it was a heated exchange between Van Badham, who is a commentator for the Guardian, and obviously Steve Price, who's a radio announcer, and they were used by Van Badham to open up a big can of worms.
Huge.
About the treatment of women and...
Was there a broader issue?
Was there a broader issue? But I don't know about you. I just found them... I was seething watching this video, Dan. It was embarrassing to watch her comments. I mean, I don't know what you thought about it, but...
Well, for those that haven't seen it...
Well, yeah, for those that haven't seen it, we're going to show it to you now because we just think it's going to really... Anyway, go ahead.
You be the judge.
Yeah, you be the judge.
I happen to know all of the people you mentioned there, Sam, Eddie and Caroline Wilson very well. And Eddie apologised immediately. If you listen to that broadcast in context, it was a bunch of blokes laughing about things that they shouldn't have laughed about. But I think too much was made of what was originally a joke on a football show.
What you see as, jokes made by a bunch of blokes, from the position of being one of those blokes who's probably been in on some of those jokes, I see as a woman who is part of a social world where, violence is...
I hope you're not suggesting I've been on.
I'm saying that
I'd like you just to retract that because I would never.
I'm saying
say
that you
like
have just described them as a bunch of blokes joking around and
That's a fact.
making apologies. Yes, Steve.
That's a fact.
Yes,
That's
Steve.
what they were doing.
Yes.
Well, don't tar me with their brush.
It's not.
Please.
It's not funny.
Don't tar me with their brush,
Steve,
please.
Steve, do you know what you're doing? Do you have any understanding what you're doing? This man has given us an extremely upsetting story about something that's happened.
Yes, I can hear
and
as well as you
are
can.
defending yourself in a context where we have to have a conversation about cultural attitudes that treat women differently. And you cannot create paradigms where there are blokes who have this kind of behaviour and we are looking at women who live in the result of cultural attitudes that treat women differently.
Men can be just as upset about these things as anyone else.
I'll give you a chance to respond in a moment, but...
Thank you. You're proving my point very excellently about the attitudes that create these kind of problems.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we need to bring up that the challenges are multifaceted. One, we have to stop creating these binary, men are this, women are this. Masculinity is this, femininity is this. Men have high status, women have low status. You can speak down to these people, but these people are not allowed to speak back up. That we can make jokes and it's all jokes and, oh yeah, they apologised and that's fine. But on the receiving end is the ludicrous proportion of women who do endure violence.
I think you're just being hysterical.
It's probably my ovaries making me do it, Steve.
Okay.
But we have to...
Okay, sorry, Van, I'd like to hear from the rest of the panels. I think it's getting a bit too heated on this side, and I think the public can make up their own minds about that.
Well, it's certainly fiery, the exchange between the two. I just want to make a disclaimer from the get-go so that no one misconstrues sort of our views. What Eddie McGuires said was wrong. I'm never going to turn around and say that he should be allowed to make those comments. He is a senior figure in the community. He
should not have said that.
The president of probably the biggest sporting club in Australia, and he should be more professional than make comments of that nature.
No one should say that.
No, that's not good enough. But where I take issue with Van Badham's premise is that she's tried to use that to, as you were alluding to before, open up this broader issue around violence against women and sexism. And what she's done is, Steve Price presented a point to her and said, I think it's a joke. He said, yes, I don't think
Eddie
they should
McGuire
have said it.
apologised for that.
Yes, and he thinks that it should be moved on. But the main point he's making was, I think that's a joke. And she didn't accept that point. So she has effectively implied that she thinks that Eddie McGuire was not joking. And she is therefore further implying that Eddie McGuire has some sort of condones or is capable of some form of domestic violence or some form of sexist act, which I think is as offensive to Eddie McGuire as the comments that were initially made to Caroline Wilson.
Let's just put this in perspective. Eddie McGuire, that could have been a male journalist, and Eddie McGuire could have said those comments, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been the same. Would have had the same effect. Would have been the same. He did not once imply that it was the fact that she was a woman.
No, that's the whole point.
The fact that she was a woman.
People like Van Badham are the ones that have opened up that whole thing about sex. Sexism. And I think the main point here is that Eddie McGuire, more than likely, I'm speaking on his behalf, but I think I can.
Okay.
I think he's made that comment because Caroline Wilson's not a well-liked reporter. And that's not because she's a woman. That's because she's a shit reporter and she reports on dour, negative stories and always tries to come up with scandals and all these sorts of things. And it's well accepted that she's a negative reporter. And that's why people don't like her. Not because she's a woman. By any stretch of the imagination. And that's the key point.
I quite like the comment that Steve Price made when he said, don't brush, what should we say, don't tar me with their brush. Because that's what she was trying to do. I think she was trying to twist everything that he said. When he said that, we shouldn't even say that she wasn't.
No.
And I think that Steve Price has been vilified on Q&A. And the reaction from the crowd really got me down. The reaction from the crowd.
Well, Q&A have a history of doing this. They stack their audience with left-wing, sexist, sob story type, narrow-minded wankers.
Get the tissues out, honestly.
And they think that they can do that.
And they all started clapping like she was a hero, like she was, you go, girl, you stand up for us. One, what political background? What political background does Van Badham have?
Yeah. Well,
where does she fit? Where does she fit in this whole thing? Where does she look? She might be standing up for women, and it is a issue in Australian society.
No one's disputing that. But Van Badham can have a moment in the sun, appealing to that narrow-minded audience. But I reckon there's the majority of Australians, the majority of down-to-earth Australians would have been sitting at home thinking, she is absolutely kidding herself. And I've seen a lot of people getting behind Steve Price and supporting him because she just blew his comments way out of context. Got herself a little round of applause, but I still think there's a lot of people that think she's kidding herself.
15 seconds in the sun, and hopefully she never sees it again.
One comment that I take massive issue with that she said, well, I take issue with just about all of it, but
every single word.
The main thing that she said there, and this is so classic of feminists when they get into these arguments, because their argument's so bereft of any substance, and because she starts actually losing the argument, because when Steve Price said to her, it's a joke, and she didn't really have anything to say, she sort of tossed and turned, and then so she had to blurt out he said you're being hysterical, and then she had to blurt out the comment. They must teach this down at feminism school, because every single time they start losing the argument, they pull it out. She made a comment, Steve Price did not mention one thing about sexism or about females. He just said it was a bunch of blokes having a laugh. You're being a bit hysterical. And she said, "Oh, it must be my ovaries." When I just want to know when Steve Price made any comment,
any implication about any female body part, about anything to do with the woman.
She felt obliged to bring that up to try and strengthen her dying argument. And I just think that's a really low cheap tactic. And any half screwed on human being can see through that garbage that she's trying to spin.
And again, Dan, it was the reaction from the crowd that got me more than that comment.
Yeah.
These are the people, all right? These are the people. So that discussion stemmed from a heavy political discussion, all right? These are the same people clapping and for those sort of comments. They're getting behind those sort of comments. Those sort of comments, align with the same comments made on the Q&A about Tony Abbott.
Yes. Broader political issues.
About Yeah, exactly. So it's about political issues that discussion was about. Yet Van Badham brought up the Duke of Edinburgh knighthood incident, the onion eating incident about Tony Abbott.
He couldn't pronounce.
Yeah, couldn't pronounce Canada whilst he was in Canada.
Yeah.
Yet they all clapped it.
Yes. You've got to understand. I now take an approach when I'm watching Q&A. If people clap, it must mean what the person said is absolute rubbish, because that's what they deliberately stack their audience with that type of people. So
I wonder if those people have influence, are the main influence in society.
Well, they're the ones that go to the ballot box. They're the ones that went to the ballot box last week.
That's why and you know what? That's why Malcolm Turnbull's under scrutiny already, because of those people.
Hear to that.
Because of those people. Anyway, Dan, we'll just move on quickly to the Origin. We weren't going to do too much sport this week, but we'll move on to an off-field, little off-field niggle that you want to get around to do with the State of Origin. Now, I know you're more on the fence. You're not a Queenslander or New South Wales. You're more on the fence. I know you were born in Queensland, but you don't like something that's popped up in the media after Origin.
Well, I was sitting down on Wednesday night and I was watching the game, and they'd already won the series, and there was a couple of refereeing decisions that maybe didn't go their way. And I thought,
I think the penalty count was it 12-2 towards New South Wales.
Yeah, okay, and that's fine. And I just wanted to see what the response of the Queensland community was going to be. And sure enough, when the clock strikes 80 minutes and they've been beaten, here's the Courier Mail chiming in. It's a refereeing disgrace. This is what I can't understand. The memers were out on Facebook. The Queensland supporters were up and having statuses.
New South Wales team photo was just team photo of the refs.
Yep, the front page, one win in a row. I've just never come across so much biasness in all my 22 years on this planet. Do you honestly think it's justified? And do you really think that Queensland, you've already got the series, fellas, you've lost one game. Okay, there could have been, the odd refereeing stitch up, but it goes both ways every year. And it just seems like any side that loses in an Origin game has to blame the ref. And I really don't think it's good for the game.
Well, look, I'm gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and defend that. I don't like that. I think
it's not a good look, is it, Chris?
It's not a good look. It's not a great look.
But this is where Queenslanders start learning to cop it all.
But I don't know if you've ever been in New South Wales when they publish a newspaper.
I agree. It's both sides. I just happen to pick on Queensland.
You look at the commentary. Fatty Vaught. Fat is the most biased bloke on that.
Then you got Gussie Gould.
Then you got Gus Gould, who, to be fair to the big fella, he's a little bit in between.
Impartial.
But you got Freddie Fittler. And you got Joey Johns, who work in the Queensland in the New South Wales dressing room. And they're on the panel. Ray Rabs has actually said that he doesn't actually support a team. He's right in the middle.
That's fair enough.
But the point I'm trying to make there is in something like Queensland versus New South Wales, you're going to have bias. You're going to have this sort of stuff happening.
Yeah, I sort of accept that point, but I just don't think it's a good look. And it went even further than that. Cameron Smith, there was a 9-minute interview with him and the coach, Gilly. And,
yeah, you did that first.
and the first 4 minutes from the reporters was talking about refereeing decisions. Can we get onto the fucking game? There was 80 minutes of football. Can we just get onto the game, please? I mean, if you ever can't get to sleep one night, make sure you go down and watch that interview. It was so boring. Oh, what about this decision? Did you agree with that decision? I think the absolutely insipid journalism, they need to start talking more about the game and less about the referees.
What, are you done?
I'm done.
All right. We'll just move on now. We've got a best bet for us this week, Dan.
Yeah. Look, I think we're going to combine ours because when I come to you and said it, you couldn't believe it.
This is an outrageous odd. This is. I can't believe that Sportsbet have thrown this up for Cronulla Sharks.
I'm still thinking we must have missed something.
I think they must have their didgeridoos out playing.
No, they don't. I've had a look at the side. They've got all their good. They've got Townsend and Maloney. They're the two best halves. Barber's at fullback. Holmes is playing.
The Roosters aren't crashed, are they?
It's Cronulla, by the way. The Roosters have won 3 games.
It's the Sharkies versus the Roosters.
I think they're playing Monday night. $1.53. It's being hit. This is someone's won 13 in a row.
So, got
either back it Or tell me why it's $1.53, because I'm about to go down to the local NAB and start talking limits with them.
Yeah, mortgages. So if you're smart, I think I was going to say if you're brave, but if you're smart,
yeah,
get around it. Now, just to finish on Dan, we've got a bit of an announcement to make. The yarn next week, we'll be travelling down to the Byron Parklands and reporting from the trackside from the Splendor Cup. So you'll be getting daily updates in the same fashion as we present on a weekly basis. So
if you can't make it, tune in.
If you can't make it, tune in, because we'll be having daily updates, and it'll be quite a fun time. So happy punting, and we'll see you there.